Book 3, The Way of Knowing. Lesson 25. You remain as you are created to be. Now we begin. Beloved and holy friends, we come forth to abide with you as we initiate the third and final part of this formal information in the way of mastery. This information will, as time unfolds, be shared with millions. We have chosen to entitle this last group of lessons The Way of Knowing. What then is required for true knowledge to exist? How does one live in whatever dimension of creation when they abide in true knowing? Beloved friends, that which is required for true knowledge to pervade the whole of one's consciousness is simply this. Not for one moment have you ever lived life. Rather, in truth and reality, life, which is but love streaming forth from the source of all creation, has sought to live as you. Never at any time has there, in truth, been a false self. Never has there been a time in which something called the ego has existed. You have heard us say many times that what is true about you is true always, and that you remain as you are created to be, the thought of perfect love and form. You emanate from the mind of the Creator, as a wave emanates from the ocean. The great secret of your human existence, indeed, the great secret of many journeys you have taken, is that they have existed nowhere, save within the movie screen of your own mind. Does this mean that your dreams have had no effect? Within the dream itself, as long as you choose to be identified with it, you will experience the effects of the choice that you have made. Yet now, as the heart has touched purification, and as you have truly been willing to allow transformation to occur, all that matters and must be remembered is that you, as you thought yourself to be, has never truly existed. It has been a smokescreen. It has been a chimera. It has been illusion. Knowledge, then, consists of the crystal-clear awareness that while creation streams forth from the mind of God, you cannot find the place that a separate self begins, and you have absolutely no knowledge of where your end will be found. In truth, you do not know what is going to unfold in the very next moment of your experience. This can only mean, since you do have a next moment, that something else is living you. In the beginning of the journey there must be desire, for no one can come unto the Father without it. For just as you used the energy of desire to dream the dream of separation that closed your heart, that set you on 1,000 useless journeys, propelled and compelled by fear, by judgment, and by doubt, likewise desire has been necessary for you to be willing to face your illusions, and to look more deeply at your judgment, and to see that they can have no value save that which you extend unto them. It has indeed required desire for you to want to awaken. As you have used the power of intention to continually etch into the mind the belief and perception that are the very foundation of the dream of separation, so too have you learned to use intention through time, which is your creation, in order to awaken from time and from fear. Just as you once used the power of allowing to give permission to the creations held within your mind to seemingly, apparently take form in front of your eyes, and allowed their reality become so deeply entrenched that literally worlds have been birthed from it, so too have you needed to use allowance in the process of transformation, allowing yourself to feel what you did not want to feel before, and allowing yourself to see differently what you had once insisted could only be seen in a certain way. Allowing has been the very field from which all forgiveness you have learned has sprung forth. Allowing has been the most central of keys in the process of your healing and awakening. For when you truly begin to touch upon the power of genuine allowing, you begin to taste the first levels of true freedom. You have learned that just as you have allowed new beginnings to occur, you have also discovered that you have the power to allow endings to occur within the field of phenomena you call the world. Yet I say unto you, surrender is the completion of the keys to the kingdom. Just as once you had need of surrendering to your illusions in order to identify the fundamental energy of your being with your illusions, just as you have had to live in surrender to even allow allowance, just as you had learned to rest and surrender even to allow intention, just as you have learned to rest and surrender even to allow desire to be made new within you, as you enter the way of knowing, the final surrender is entered. The final surrender, there is only God. That is a surrender which is beyond the comprehension of all the languages and theology of the world, beyond all that can be spoken or uttered, yet not beyond what can be known, felt, realized, and lived. For in surrender you look upon a perfectly harmless world, whether it seems to be outside of the body or within the body-mind itself. You look upon the coming and going of the world, and you find that all things are of themselves perfectly empty. You look within and discover that no longer need you obstruct from the conscious mind, from your awareness, what the body-mind has experienced from the moment of its conception. No longer is there an obstruction to the flow of experience. No longer is there a self-seeking God. Where and when that self has been surrendered, the mind awakens to the simple reality that there is only God, and you are that one. As you seek to find words to communicate to yourself, or perhaps to another, the great wonder, the great mystery, the great truth, the great simplicity of awakening into true knowing, you will strive to find a way to communicate, as I have tried to find ways to communicate with you. You will seek to communicate to your brothers and sisters that there is only God. And yet there is the power of the mind to perceive yourself as the created, which in truth you are. For God gives rise to God, looking back upon himself. Mystery of pure content gives rise to temporary form in order that pure mystery might be apprehended. You are then the very process whereby that one, who alone is without a second, creates a temporary form through which the one apprehends and knows itself. You are that one, that is the perfect effect of mystery, that would pour forth of itself and make visible what was invisible, to birth through time and form that which cannot be contained within it. For love is unfathomable. You cannot control it. Love is vast beyond all measure. You cannot contain it. Love cannot be possessed. It can only be allowed. Therefore, indeed, beloved friends, the very keys whereby once you use the power of your own mind to create the illusion of a separate self are the very keys utilized by your own mind to awaken you to the truth that you have never been. There is only and always this mysterious moment, and all things have been birthed from perfect mystery. The awakened mind, awakened from false arrogance, looks upon all things and says, I am that one. Yet no trace of separation or duality exists, for you are not apart from all things that are arising, the wind that blows through the trees, the wisps of a cold winter rain, the warmth of the sun upon the skin of the body, the embrace of a lover, the laughter of a child. The awakened mind that abides in perfect knowing no longer obstructs perception, feeling the flow of thought, or the flow of experience. It no longer looks to see how it can make things different than they are. It looks only, and lives from, what it most truly wants, simply to abide in its own nature, and to allow life to flow from that nature, dancing in the infinite myriad displays of form. What then is required for true knowledge to exist? What is indeed required to abide in the way of knowing? To fully accept that, not one trace of your seeking has ever brought you closer to reality. Not one modality has ever held the power to bring you closer to God, and that never could have ever been truly possible for you to make progress toward the consciousness of God. For all the while you have been the one you are seeking, pretending to be a seeker. And for what reason have you entertained the thought of separation? The reason is simply this, to do it. For the mind of God does not deny any possibility, for it sees nothing that can obstruct the purity of its own nature. Forever God abides within herself, infinite, vast, radiant, and silent, the infinite field of pure knowledge, pure intelligence, out of which all things and all possibilities arise. This is why I once said unto you, you have never looked upon another, for you see only yourself. You are free to judge yourself by judging your brother, and thereby create a form of experience. But even that form of experience is only the perfect reality of God, and that is what you are. What then requires true knowledge? God does. From the very moment that you first had the thought, I want God, even that thought has appeared within the field of what you believe is your limited awareness as a limited body-mind, racked by fear and doubt, guilt, and all the rest. All of it is illusion. The thought of wanting God, the moment in which your journey home began, that thought is the presence of God awakening itself to that which has never been lost. God is what requires true knowledge. The thirst that you have felt for God is God's thirst for herself. You are literally the field of awareness of God, in which God has awareness of himself, because you are the power of God. And only by that power have you ever been able to be aware of something that has appeared to be other than God, for even fear rests in love. Even fear, contraction, and the dream of separation requires love. For love allows all things, trusts all things, embraces all things, and therefore transcends all things. In what you might still wish to perceive to be your own experience, as though it were separate and apart from your brothers and sisters, as though it were separate and apart from the twinkling of the stars and the dance of the sunlight upon the water, and the thought and the brilliant mind of a scientist, and the cry of a newborn child. Even if you wish yet to maintain that you have something called private experience, that private experience has required the presence of God. Every thought you have ever held has existed only because love has allowed it. You have the power to awaken to your true nature now. Have you suffered because God has chosen it? Not at all, for in truth, and please listen carefully, suffering does not exist. Only the reality of love can exist. You are the one with the power to be awakened to your own true nature right here, right now. Indeed, only when you have given up attachment to the modality, the meditation, the prayers, the theologies, the textbook, only when you have given up attachment to all forms and merely make the decision to abide in the simple knowledge that you are that one, only then does knowledge permeate your awareness. If there was something you had to do to get to God, then God is apart from where you are. Yet it is the very love of pure consciousness that gives you the power to perceive that there is something you must do to get to God. Therefore, God is always present. If there was truly some form of meditation that could enlighten you, it would mean that you were truly apart from God at some point. But it is not possible for that one to be separate from itself. Allow, then, the mind to rest in the simplicity that what is true has been true always, and that where you abide you are merely the manifestation of that one showing up as a man or a woman. In true knowledge, in genuine true knowledge, which exists here now and cannot be gotten tomorrow, there is only the pure simplicity of the moment that is arising, looked upon with perfect innocence. In true knowledge there is perfect peace. In true knowledge one merely abides awake, witnessing the play and display of phenomena which is indeed arising only within the one mind that the sonship is. I have said often to you that you cannot truly make a wrong turn, and no one has ever made a wrong turn in his or her journey. How could this be possible in the field of pure love that is God? Only love is real. You have allowed yourself as God to formulate shapes of experience merely to experience it. Every tear that you have cried, every loss that you have felt, is yet only God choosing to have the experience. You have remained eternally free in each moment to choose again, and indeed you will choose again without end. For there is not a time that God will cease to be. For if God could cease to be, then God is not God, for there would need be a field of energy in which non-being could exist. The mind that is awakened serves only the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit is merely right-mindedness. And what is right-mindedness, if not true knowledge? The way of knowing, then, is a way of unobstructed feeling, unobstructed allowance, not only of what is around you, but what is arising from within you. The work that I do communicating this lesson is not done because someone else is requiring me to do it. It arises within the field of the mind of God, that is the essence of all that I am as Christ. It arises, is witnessed and allowed by me, and therefore the work is done. This is no different than when you experience in your moment-to-moment experience. When you watch a raindrop fall and touch the window through which you look, you have utilized and are the presence of the power of awareness. That is no different than that which pervades me and through which this communication is manifested. All that is taking place in all attempts to awaken the sonship is that the one is speaking to itself. It speaks of awakening because another aspect of itself, another wave from the ocean, is yet pretending that it truly caused itself to lose awareness. Look around you, beloved friends, for once I ask you to consider that you do not know what a single thing is or is for. I did this because you believed that you were a separate self, and that your judgments and perceptions and definitions of things had a reality outside of your mind. Therefore I asked of you, look around in perfect humility, for you do not know what a single thing is or is for. For if you look upon a brother or sister and see them as separate from yourself, someone from which something can be acquired for you to gain in your journey, you have truly not known what your brother or sister is for. This is the only thing that your brother or sister can be for, to be that which God looks upon and sees only himself. A brother or sister is in the field of awareness you have learned to call your own for one reason, to be loved, to be celebrated, and to be joined with to create and extend the good, the holy, and the beautiful. Does this mean that if you look upon another, that they ought to get it? Not at all. For that one that you are manifesting through them may very well choose, in its infinite perfect freedom, to remain holy and sane. And so what? Nothing can prevent you from looking with love and allowing the play and display of form to continue its dance of birth and death, joining and distancing, creating and dissolution. All things that can be experienced must finally be allowed to flow without obstruction within your mind. Birth gives rise to death, and death gives rise to birth in a ceaseless display, not of something struggling for life, but as life itself. The reality of all that you are remains utterly changeless and pure. You are the sky through which all clouds dance and play. Your literal moment-to-moment experience, even in a moment when you think you are only a separate self that is going to go bankrupt tomorrow because of decisions made yesterday, even that can be allowed, can be trusted, can be appreciated, can be witnessed from the spaciousness of the sky that can embrace each cloud from a place of perfect knowing. There can be no greater joy than to arrive in each moment with nothing to be acquired, nothing to be accomplished, nothing to be resisted. When resistance has been released, through the simple choice to release it, you will discover and know that all along, in reality, there has only been God. Living in obstructed life. How then does one live as they abide in true knowledge? One could simply answer, any way they want to. For in unobstructed life, that one is allowed to inform your choices. There is no longer anything you believe you need, nothing you believe will add something to you. For who by taking thought, who by taking action, who by belief in theology has ever added even 1 inch to their stature? For though the body arises and passes away as a brief cloud of illusion in the field of creation, you remain unobstructed and vast. How can eternity be added unto? You are pure awareness, and nothing you have ever done has increased you, just as nothing you have ever done has taken anything away. Each moment, then, is perfectly pristine, honest, and innocent. Each moment embraced and allowed without obstruction is the literal and present state of heaven. This is why I once said, heaven is spread across the face of the earth, yet mankind sees it not. Yet it requires heaven to choose to see something else. This is a slippery point upon which the way of knowing rests. It is slippery only because it requires no effort. You cannot help but be the one showing up as the dance of a temporary play of energy that appears to be separate from all other plays of energy. Yet the sonship is one. Every tree, every drop of rain, every molecule, every thought, every non-thought, these things are the sonship. Is it not time to awaken beyond a particular language that speaks only to humanity? Remember that your suffering has come only from the illusion that you are a separate body-mind subject to the ravage of time, the insecurity of the world, surely to become a victim of death. The whole time, in reality, you are the power by which you choose that belief. Does this mean that you can merely say, I am awake now, and I don't need to feel that feeling that's coming up? Not at all. For love does not resist anything. Love embraces all things. Love desires all things. Love awakens to the truth that only God is. And God would embrace the totality of His creation through you, as you, in you, for you, and for Himself. For there is no difference between God and you. You are that one. How then does an awakened one live? I gave you the answer earlier, any way that awakened one wants to. And here now, please understand, we come to the essence of what we will be doing in the lessons that follow. For no longer will we live in questions about what we ought to do. No longer will I ask you to live in questions of what went wrong, but rather in the purity of the power of the one question that God dwells in constantly. What do I want? For here in perfect surrender is the mind returned to pure desire, not the desire to gain for a separate self, but that which expresses the totality of God. What do I want is the question that God asks Himself as you. Yes, it does mean you are perfectly free to enjoy the field of desire. Are you capable of knowing what you truly want? Absolutely, once you decide that you are not what you once believed you were. This requires only the decision to recognize that nothing can exist save God, and that therefore you are that one. You are whole and free now. I have often hinted to you that the totality of my life was my journey back to God. I chose it freely, not because I was separate from God, but because I had already awakened to the truth that what could possibly exist except the love of God? I chose to look upon the body-mind and live only in the question, what do I want? The one thing I chose was to demonstrate the unreality of death. What will you choose to demonstrate? For see not in my demonstration something grand and beyond you, but rather see that everything you demonstrate is equal to that same power. For it flows from that power. It abides in that power. It manifests that power. It is the living breath and reality of God. Therefore, as we continue through the lessons, we will begin to focus attention in perfect freedom of exploring what is wanted. For the awakened mind sees that in truly living in divine selfishness, you cannot help but dance perfectly with your brother or sister, regardless of how they are choosing to respond to you. It is impossible to separate one from another. It is impossible to cause another suffering. It is impossible not to be one with the one before you. There is only the dance and the play of creation. There is only the celebration of God's eternal reality. There is only the recognition that God is joy and not depression. All depression stems from resistance, the obstruction of the flow of awareness, the attempt to limit the unlimited. The mind that allows all things, trusts all things, and embraces all things is all things. Yet though you will seem to live, yet you will not live. The One alone lives as you. You are free, you are vast, you are without birth and without death. You are as I am. You are the awakened one, the anointed, the Messiah. You are the gentle touch of love in a temporary illusion, attempting to be other than love. And why not? It is all a simple game, an innocent illusion. Therefore, we will end this lesson with the one question that we ask you to live within. Beloved friend, O Holy One, what do you want? And is that wanting generated by the freedom of love or by the ridiculous creation of a useless fear? Want only from freedom, and you will have your desire. And with that, beloved friends, peace be with you. We are most certainly going to enjoy being with you. Go then in peace. Amen.